What better way to use a computer than to do math for us? We'll start with a PHP file that looks like this. It has an empty body. Then we'll open and close the PHP tags. For the rest of this lesson, we'll assume that we're printing something to the body of the page, like this. To perform a math function, simply write the expression on a line. For example, 7 plus 100 semicolon. However, nothing happens on our web page when this PHP file is run. That's because we're not printing the answer to the output. To print the result, wrap the expression in a print function. Now when we load the web page, we'll have the number 107 on the screen. Here are some other common math symbols. For addition, use plus. For subtraction, use minus. For multiplication, use an asterisk. And for division, use a backslash. To write an exponent, use an upward pointing caret symbol. You can combine these two. The PHP compiler will pay attention to order of operations, so it's permissible to use parentheses. Don't forget the semicolon at the end of every line. All of these numbers have been whole numbers, or integers. To use a floating point value, which is a number with a decimal place in it, just make one of the numbers in the expression a float, like this. 100.50 divided by 4 will return 25.125. What if we want to store these numbers somehow? We can use variables. Imagine a variable as a box. You can store whatever you'd like inside the box, and to use the box you have to give it a label or a name. In PHP, names of variables always begin with a $sign. After the $sign, a simple word or combination of letters will suffice. Don't use multiple words in a variable name. If you want to use multiple words, separate them with an underscore. To declare or create a variable, write the name of the variable, then an equal sign, then the contents of the variable. This code will create a variable named test and give it a value of 5. You can put lots of different things in a variable. For example, you could store a number or a string. A string is just a group of letters. You have already used strings when you printed the words "Hello World." To create a string, wrap the string in quotation marks, like this. Whenever you create a string, always use quotation marks. We can now print those variables. In the print statement, just reference the variable name. For example, print parentheses test will display 5, and print parentheses string will print hello world. If you want to change the contents of the variable, just use the equal sign again. String is now equal to 10. I'm going to create a third variable called multiply. I'll set multiply to the product of test and string. And since 5 times 10 is 50, if we print multiply, we'll see 50. The last data type for today is called an array. Imagine an array as a grouping of boxes, all connected. This grouping of boxes has one label, but each individual box has a number. To declare an array, use the bracket symbols. Separate each box in the array with a comma. This line of code will create an array called numbers with 3 individual boxes. The first section contains the number 2, the second section 4, and the third section number 6. To access an individual box in the array, use the square brackets again, like this. It says to print numbers at index 1. Index 1 is the number of the box that you want to access. Notice that this prints the number 4, which we placed in the array second. This is because arrays are 0 indexed. This means that the first item in the array has an index of 0, the second has an index of 1, and so on. If we wanted to print the number 2, then we'd have to use this line of code. Print numbers at 0. I'm declaring a second array, this one called strings, because we're going to fill it with strings. Use the square bracket notation to tell the parser that this is an array, then separate its contents with commas. To access the word in, use strings at index 3. That's it for now. We can declare variables, or little boxes for storage, by using an equal sign. We can put numbers, strings, or arrays into these boxes. To use a string, use quotation marks, or to use an array, use square brackets. Remember that arrays are like several boxes connected and are zero indexed. You can perform math by using different operators. Next lesson, we'll learn how to make decisions based on logic.